Good afternoon, the last day of World Government Summit in Dubai, day 3. Very pleased to welcome Mr. Wissam Yassine, Partner Sustainability at Bain Co., the leading management consultancy. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
It has been a while that Bain Co., the knowledge partner of the leading summit, World Government Summit. Please tell us more. Where are we now this year?
Sure. Yeah, our relationship with the World Government Summit goes way back. We started our relationship more than 10 years ago, actually.
Yes.
When the World Government Summit started in 2013.
Yes.
And we became a knowledge partner for the last few years.
Indeed.
And it's because we have a common vision of understanding the future, of supporting governments and improving their performance, and improving the quality of life for communities. The last few years, our research focus has been on future of work, talent, and now sustainability, and we're very excited to be with you today to discuss that.
Yeah, so we are in the year of sustainability, extended from 2000. We had COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in the region, then COP28 in Dubai, year of sustainability, then extended year of sustainability. So the region is buzzing in sustainability. I understand that, and we saw the report. Tell us more about it, about the key findings of the report.
Sure.
And what it covered.
Makes sense. So, first of all, as you said, it's very important to put things in context. We're in a region where sustainability is taking a front seat. It's becoming extremely important. Our leaders are focusing on it and want to be central to the solutions that we want to put globally around sustainability. The reason is very simple. It's because the region is one of the most impacted by sustainability risks and opportunities that we see. In fact, if you think about climate change, we all know that 2023 was the warmest year on record with 1.4 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial times. What not everyone knows is that in the Mena region, that increase was actually double. In some regions, in our Mena region, in Iraq and in Algeria, it was more than 2.8 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial times. So we're one of the regions that's facing the most impact from climate change. This means we need to be at the front of solving this problem for our own sake. What we wanted to do is understand what are we doing to address this issue. What we saw is from a government perspective, we're seeing increasingly important steps. For example, 2 years ago, 0% of our country's emissions were under any net zero target. Today, 60% of our emissions under a net zero target from a government perspective. However, this is not cascading to companies. We're not seeing companies translating this government level action into company level action. In fact, only 12% of all companies in the region have any net zero target at all. And this is compared to 70%, for example, in the US or Europe or the UK. So we wanted to study this, understand how can we accelerate further companies' journey towards sustainability adoption.
Okay, so about the key findings, I believe there are the 4 leads. Please tell us more.
Sure. So the key finding for us was that typically there are 2 steps towards full adoption of sustainability. The first is to understand that sustainability is an important topic and define your ambition. The second is to actually go on that journey and reach that ambition.
And that's where the challenge is.
Exactly. The good news is that 70% of the companies have taken the first step. They told us that we have a clear ambition on sustainability. So we know it's important and we have an ambition. However, the big problem is only 3% of companies have taken step 2, which is achieving their ambition or be on track to achieve their ambition.
Because they want to invest, which are reluctant.
Exactly. There is a big gap that we see between what we want to achieve and what we're actually achieving. And it's driven, as you said, by the fact that this is not easy to do. There is an investment, there's a change, it's a journey, there's a change in the way you operate, in the way you do business, in the way you deal with your supplier and with your value chain and so on. So what we wanted to do is understand how can companies really bridge that gap between ambition and action and move more companies along that journey into step 2. And we defined, as you said, 4 steps for companies to do that. We summarized it in a framework called the LEAD framework. The first step is what we call LINK, which is linking sustainability to the strategy.
Okay.
The days of doing sustainability as SPR and separate from strategy are way gone.
Okay.
And it's not going to work anymore. You really need to integrate sustainability in the core of your strategy. Sally, you know this, the sustainability or the climate change challenge that we face is going to be the biggest transformation that we have seen in our history. From an economic or social perspective. There is more than $200 trillion of investments that are needed to achieve this. Huge investments, more than $4 trillion per year, $4 trillion. This is a huge opportunity. Companies need to look at this and see, how can I embed this into my strategy? What are the opportunities that this transformation creates for me as a business? So that's step 1, link. Step number 2 is engage. and this is about engaging the full organization. Again, historically, sustainability used to be done by a marketing department, by a PR department, by investor relations department.
Or sometimes HR.
Or HR department, but not never, but increasingly we're seeing it now being done across the organization. So what we see is that typically the best performing companies, Microsoft for example, they'll create a committee at a board level called the Sustainability Committee that's responsible and accountable for delivering on the sustainability ambition, but they'll also create layers of engagement across the different forums of engagement across the different layers, across the management, across the front line, and these layers ensure that you have joint accountability across all the teams. So that's the engagement part. The third part is action. Increasingly, we see companies who are translating their ambition into implementable missions on the ground.
Yeah.
So we've seen companies, for example, historically just say we want to be net zero by 2060, 2050, 2070. That's
not a solid roadmap.
How do you do that?
Just a slogan.
Exactly. How do you do that? What are the specific initiatives you do? Nothing. So what we see best-in-class companies do is say, okay, 2060 net zero. What does this really mean in terms of target by 2025, by 2030, by 2035? What kind of initiatives we want to implement? How we want to improve our energy efficiency? How we want to deploy renewable energy? How we want to use carbon credits? Yeah. So that's the action. And the last one is driving innovation. It's very important to note that despite all the technological progress that we have seen, only 50% of the emission reduction that's needed by 2050 is going to be through existing technologies. And the other 50% is going to be through completely new technologies which we don't have today. Yeah. So companies need to look at that and say, how can we contribute to this? How can we drive the next wave of innovation to achieve our climate ambition?
You mentioned risks basically yesterday. Would you please elaborate in this regard?
So this all goes back to the first step, which is linking sustainability to strategy. What we have seen is that historically a lot of companies used to look at sustainability and think about it as a risk element to manage. Yeah. We have a regulatory requirement from a government, we have this law that we need to comply with, we have this investor who's asking for data, and let's manage this risk. Let's just address it and let it kind of go on the side. What we've seen increasingly is that companies are now moving from this risk management mindset to the opportunity maximizing mindset, which is, no, it's not a risk. There is a risk aspect which we need to manage, but there's a huge opportunity that we also need to capture.
We at ESG, Mena, what we have been noticing is basically some decisions are being made at the board level, but CEOs are reluctant for implementation because this might affect their annual bonuses, let's be honest with you. So how can we push forward the whole organization to embrace ESG inside out in terms of implementation?
No, we see that a lot. You're 100% right. Misalignment between different areas of the organization, whether it's the board and the management and the front line, the management and its investors. And I think it starts with two key things. The first is defining very clearly the why. Why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve with this? Is it to attract investors? Is it to access certain markets? Is it to attract talent? What are the key drivers that are supporting us do this? Obviously, we can achieve all of that, but what are the key drivers really?
Savings? This is something key, basically, no?
Savings is definitely key, but I would hope that companies are already doing it themselves without having sustainability as driver, but 100%. I mean, adopting sustainability.
So you get electric vans, you save on your petrol.
Absolutely.
You get sun roof, you get basically saving on your electricity.
Absolutely,
bill.
It's a win-win. Sometimes the return on investment is a bit longer. So if you want tenure of a CEO, they might not see the full impact of that until they have left. So that misalignment into the timeline of the benefit is one of the key challenges why CEOs haven't really been adopting it to the same extent.
Within the different layers of companies, which department or which layer is the most challenging to convince them to embrace implementation of ESG and sustainability?
I would say it's probably the senior management, because if you think about the board has typically a multi-year view of the company. So they're able to see the need to ensure the company resilience and long-term competitiveness, and able to see this multi-generational opportunities. If you look at the front line, you also see a lot of understanding of sustainability and its importance, because they're engaging with the communities, they're engaging with the suppliers, they're engaging with their customers, and they see these demands. What we typically see is this middle layer, which is the senior management. Usually they are too operationally focused and are not able to see this multi-year journey to be able to make those decisions which can...
How can we conquer that?
So, like I said, I think two things. The first is let's be very clear with what we're trying to achieve and what are our objectives. The second is we see increasingly companies aligning the incentive structures and the payment structures of their senior leaders with sustainability.
Do you think that this is happening in the Middle East?
Not
something
not
that's
yet in the Middle East.
Done. All right.
Globally.
One of the biggest challenges that we are seeing, especially in some sectors such as ICT and fashion, all right, then even multinational companies that usually renowned globally for being super proactive in sustainability and ESG, their Middle Eastern arms are not. And when we approach them, they usually refer us to their global headquarters, while we want, as ESG MENA, the first and only ESG knowledge hub in the MENA region, regional narrative, all right? How can we involve more and make sure that the regional bureaus or headquarters are more involved in implementing ESG?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think that's driven by the fact that the regulatory environment in some of those countries have advanced at a faster pace compared to our regulatory environment. For example, in Europe, under the non-financial disclosure directive, companies have been reporting on sustainability as mandatory requirements for a few years now.
This is my question to you. We know that the GCC central banks in last January 2023 announced in Riyadh a basically framework, a 19-point unified framework. We're seeing more unified laws within the GCC. Something also some people are saying 6+2, that means plus Egypt and Jordan, especially that Jordan now is in talks to join the GCC formally. Where do you think the regulations are going? Where do you think the regulations are going in the Middle East, in the GCC? Do you foresee mandatory ESG reporting, like UAE to start?
I think eventually we will get there, but I think it's going to be a journey. I think there is a recognition that the level of capabilities that we have in the region from a sustainability reporting perspective are not where they are in other countries. For example, if you look at the level of sustainability reporting for publicly listed companies, in the UAE, I think it's around 70%, Saudi Arabia it's around 30%, whereas in other markets like US, Europe, or even Asia, it exceeds 90%. And the quality of those reports also are typically better in other countries. So here we have more voluntary reporting to GRI. It's not really investor-focused reporting. So I think countries are going to take a phased approach to first build the capabilities, enable further adoption, and eventually, in the long run, mandate reporting, because I don't think there is a way not to eventually do that, given the fact that this is becoming mandatory across the globe. And if we want our companies to be successful globally, access those markets, access the businesses that these markets bring, we have to help them do that.
Family offices, as you know, every now and then we come into a bump in the region for continuity. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum announced last year about a new law for the governance of family offices. How do you foresee, how can we include the family offices in the ESG journey?
I think it's important that they are part of the conversation. So what in the parts of the GCC where we are advising governments on sustainability related regulations and standards, we always advise that we engage family businesses and they're part of the conversation. So we include...
Do you see an appetite in this regard?
We're seeing that. Specifically in family businesses that are moving across generations, where kind of a new generation is typically taking the lead in these businesses, and they're recognizing the importance of governance. Actually, governance is extremely important for them. How do you ensure the right allocation of roles and responsibilities across different generations and different... So I think they recognize this and they see this as part of their, if you want, legacy. This is what they want to add to their businesses, which is helping them modernize and professionalize.
My last question is about literacy. We are seeing and witnessing a severe lack of ESG literacy in the MENA region, all over. All right? How can we elevate that?
I think two tracks which are critical. The first track is actually elevating knowledge within companies, and the second is developing the future talent pipeline that's needed. Within companies today, as you said, the level of understanding of sustainability really varies massively. And there are different dialects of sustainability. Some people talk about sustainability as double materiality impact, understanding their impact, some of them about single materiality, understanding the relevant factors for investors. So I think first, there is a requirement for us to create this language around sustainability and translating it to what it means for us locally. Not relying completely on global standards, adapting global standards, but adapting it to our local context and defining what sustainability means for us. So that's step number one. Step number two is to invest massively in building the capabilities of companies. We cannot rely on companies to alone define what they need to learn and go about and learn it. We need to make sure that we're providing these curriculums, we're providing this capability building proactively to companies. And the second point is recognizing that even though we can have a quick fix to address the problem that we have today in talent, we need to have a future pipeline of talent. The need and the demand for sustainability talent is going to grow massively as we move from voluntary to mandatory reporting across the globe and here in the region. So we need to make sure that there is future talent that's ready for this. And we're including this in the curriculum and universities. We're creating professional certifications, and we're creating associations of sustainability professionals who are able to communicate, create communities of engagement and community of practice and transfer knowledge.
Wissam, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Saleh.
Thank you.